What will it take for the Aggies to over and underachieve in 2025? I'll tell you on today's episode of Locked On Aggies.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Once again, FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about the Aggies win over Arkansas on the hardwood. An Arkansas team that was heating up. They were playing good ball at the right time. Texas A&M continues to win. But we're going to kick the show off talking about three things Texas A&M's got to do to overachieve and three things Texas A&M would have to do to underachieve in 2025. So, baseball, we'll talk about it. You know, you get your job done this weekend, what you need to do against Elon. We will talk about that later in the week. We got a ton of stuff. Got a big show tomorrow. I'll talk about that later. And then, but we'll get to some baseball. We'll get, especially once we get deeper into it, we'll talk about it. But the number one thing that I believe Texas A&M has to do to find a way to overachieve this season, the number one thing is the overachievement, the great play of Marcel Reed. If Marcel Reed is able to continue to develop and get better and better and better this offseason, which is a concern. That is, we're in our Locked On SEC host group chat. Somebody just sent a text about, they talked about an SEC quarterback rankings, and Reed was ranked 11. And I was, all 9 levels angry about this because I disagree, behind people like Jackson Arnold and Simmons, and just don't agree with that. So him developing, I tell you this, I cannot wait to laugh my head off at all these people, the Locked On SEC hosts, the college, because everybody agrees on this. When Jackson Arnold, when Marcel Reed is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the SEC this season. For those that act like he can't, that nothing frustrates, and I mean nothing frustrates me more than people that act like players can't improve. I mean, Marcel Reed was winning football games for the Aggies last year, and he really hadn't even quite developed as a passer yet. He has more room to develop as a passer, and that is what he has to do for this team to overachieve. He's got to develop as a passer. We know who he is as a rushing quarterback. We know he can move with his legs. We all know that. His development has to come with his arm. He also has new weapons. And I think that the name above, seeing Simmons above Marcel Reed makes me angry, but I think Jackson Arnold being above him makes me even more mad. I mean, the guy got benched. I think that, people are saying, well, now he's at Auburn with great weapons. Texas A&M went and got great weapons. That's the whole point. He's great with his legs. You've got a great set of running backs that are going to make this offense be explosive. And he's now got better weapons to pass the football to. He's got a tight end in the Amari Niblack, who I think is going to be incredible. He's got some receivers in Concepcion and in Jonah Wilson, in Mario Craver, that are going to be really good, better than what you had last season. He's going to have a better unit around him. So if Marcel Reed overachieves in 2025, Texas A&M is going to overachieve. But to me, that is the number one thing that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, Texas A&M won't overachieve. And to me, I'd say overachieving with this schedule would probably be 9 wins, realistically. I have a lot of folks would want to say 10, but I'd say 9, probably realistic. So if Texas A&M is going to overachieve. Marcel Reed has to be really good, and that means he has to develop as a passer, which I believe he's capable of doing. The next thing I have here for Texas A&M to overachieve is the wide receivers continuing to get better and better, and this unit being an upgrade, which is something I just kind of hinted at, but you went and brought in some great players in this wide receiver room. We thought that last year. We thought that Cyrus Allen and Jabri Barber were going to be really, really good, and they were fine. I'm not trying to knock those guys. They were good. They had some big games. They had some big moments. But I don't think Marcel Reed, and in all honesty, Connor Brickman, when he was in there, got the help that he needed, that they needed. So I think that these weapons now out of the wide receiver position are the real deal. Partially because I think KC Concepcion is going to be a top 5 receiver in the SEC. He's that good. He is so good. I mean, he's proven it. And once again, he's a guy coming over, not trying to harp on Barber and Allen. But, Allen comes over from La Tech. Barber comes over from Troy. Good programs, good teams. But, Concepcion comes over from NC State, where there's been a lot of solid football play there. He's played with some good quarterbacks. He's done some good stuff, and I think that he's going to be a guy who is going to overachieve this year. So I think that he alone is a big reason why I believe this is going to be a reality. But, you need those other guys. You need your Mario Cravers. You need your Jonah Wilsons, your Ashton Bethel-Romans, your Terry Bussies. You need these receivers to step up and be better. I think that Terry Bussey is going to take this big step in the right direction that we're all expecting him to. If he does that, this room gets even. If Terry Bussey is just elite, if he's just elite, and you have him on top of Concepcion and some of the other guys, this wide receiver room is going to be so scary. So scary. So that, I think, is the second thing that must happen for Texas A&M to overachieve. The third thing, and this is the number one thing for the defense, is the defensive line stepping up. I think our number one concern right now, when you take a look at the Texas A&M defense, when it comes to, so obviously we're going to talk about. Let me just take another stab at that statement. I think when it comes to the upside, we know the number one concern on the defense. We'll get there in a minute, but the upside, where there's a question of they can be great or they can be really middle of the road, is the defensive line. And I think if this Texas A&M team is going to overachieve, the defensive line is going to have to take that step forward. You're losing your elite player in Nick Scorton. You're losing Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. You're losing, probably a 1 or 2 day 1 picks and a 1 or 2 day 2 picks in those 3 names. So you're losing elite talent all over this defensive line. You have a guy in Cassius Howell who, as those of you every day as you're Locked On Aggies know, I believe he's going to step up and he's going to continue to become a better and better and better player. So, we're all bought into that. We all believe that he's going to take this next step. Then you need some of these transfers. You need your Searcy. You need you need all of these guys to come in and find a way to take the next step for this football team and for this defensive line. Searcy and Hayes and Oyenum, these guys have to be good. You need your Regises and your DJ Hickses and all of these type of players to be better than advertised. If those guys are better than advertised, this defensive line is going to be elite. This defensive line is going to get to the next level and be potentially better this year, which is crazy to say, but I have a feeling if y'all want to hear a bold take to start your Monday morning off or more Monday afternoon, I think there's a world where Cassius Howell has a better season than Nick Scorton did in 2025 compared to 2024. I think it's bold. It is bold. There's no question. But I think he's going to be that good. I think he's potentially a better pass rusher. I think Scorton's probably better overall player, but I think that Cassius Howell's a better, pedal to the metal pass rusher. So that's going to be interesting. But this defensive line stepping up, a lot of young guys, a lot of unproven guys, a lot of transfers, a lot of pieces that have to fit together on this Texas A&M defensive line. And if they do, it's going to be an elite group. If they don't, I don't think it'll be bad, but I don't think it'll get you over the hump. So if you're a Texas A&M fan, you want this defensive line to be really, really, really good. That's the reality. And I think that is a key to overachieving. It's time to talk about what will have to happen for this team to underachieve. And I will talk about the three most important things there coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I personally love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team or a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. So, we are going to talk about what it would take for Texas A&M to underachieve in 2025. Not a topic I'm excited to have because we don't want it to happen. But we have to put it out there. So, I think those of you that kind of knew where I was going when I was talking about the most important group here for overachieving in the defensive line. I think on the flip side of it, if you're concerned about underachieving, and yes, obviously if these things that lead to overachieving if they don't happen, it will lead to you underachieving. These things that I think that we could underachieve, if they happen to where you overachieve, it leads to you overachieving. So yes, I understand it's the flip side. If Marcel Reed isn't as good, you're going to underachieve this year. I understand that. But when it comes to the things that we're going to potentially underachieve with, those are the big concerns for me. The number one, hinted at them in the go, it's the secondary. I think we all agree, if you're a Texas A&M fan, you are absolutely terrified right now of this secondary. I mean, the secondary is a group that it's just, looking at it, it's just a little bit scary to think what is going to happen with this group. I like the players you brought in Humphrey and Shaw, and I think that the staff has done a good job going to get a few handful of players to come in and help there. I think that you're also hoping on some players I think you're hoping to see improved play from guys like Will Lee, who was great. Can he take that step to the next level? Guys, hopefully maybe Des Ricks gets better than he was. I mean, he was pretty bad. Could he get better? There's, Chappelle, there's names there. So, but I mean, I go to bed at night, every night, staring at the ceiling, shivering, scared of Texas A&M secondary, because there is a world where it just is not good. And I think if that happens, it's just really hard to be a good team when you don't have a good secondary. It just, if an opposing team can absolutely rip you to shreds passing the football, it's going to be hard to be good. So this secondary has to be good. And I think you just need a few players. Maybe it's Jenkins, maybe it's Thomas. Maybe it's one of these transfers in Shaw or Humphrey. Maybe it's Will Lee becomes one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. There are so many things that could happen for this unit to overachieve or underachieve. But if this secondary has another year, it's been rough these last 2 years. If you have another year where it struggles, it's just going to be hard to win a lot of football games. So you really got to hope that Texas A&M secondary is able to overachieve, is able to be better than advertised. I mean, I think that you just got to hope and pray that that's the reality. So we'll see there. The next thing I have here, I think this one might be a little surprising, and it's the running back room. And it's not about play of the running back room. It's not about the play of the running back room I'm concerned about. It's staying healthy. All of the guys you got in this unit, Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss, Reuben Owens, you've obviously got your freshmen going in, but those three guys have all throughout their careers been hurt. Amari Daniels, got hurt this offseason or, the end of the year. Le'Veon Moss got hurt against South Carolina. Reuben Owens gets hurt before the season starts. You have great running backs, really exceptional running backs, probably one of the best, if not the best units in the SEC and potentially college football. But they have had health issues. And we saw how when it was just Amari Daniels and, E.J. Smith last year, this rushing attack struggled. You need all your guys. I mean, it's scary to think how good this unit would have been if Owens, Moss, Daniels were healthy the whole year. So this running back room has to stay healthy. And I know that that's, kind of, it feels like a cop-out of one of these ways to underachieve because it's football, injuries happen. But, I mean, I think one of the units that Texas A&M consistently has been banged up at for years and years now. So you've got to see, especially Le'Veon Moss. I'm not, I want all these guys healthy because they're all important to this roster in different various ways. But I just think Le'Veon Moss is about to do something historic for the Aggies. I think he's going to have a scary good season. I think he's going to get NFL teams excited about him. I think that Le'Veon Moss is going to really step up and take this game to the next level. So that's one thing. Seriously, I go to bed at night just as worried as I am about the secondary. I go to bed at night saying, please, come on, let's keep our running backs healthy this year. We need them. They're so good. Let's keep them on the field. Then the next thing I have here is the offensive line not regressing. I have a very small concern that this offensive line, which we all agree is going to be really darn good this year. I think we all feel pretty confident that the offensive line is going to take another step forward. But what if it doesn't? I believe personally that returning all your starters that had a great year, this offensive line should go from here to here. It should take that step from good to elite. And it is funny knowing that last year, heading into last offseason, heading into last season, the offensive line was my number one concern. I said, if this team's going to overachieve, it's going to be thanks to this offensive line. Because I thought this offensive line was going to be a group that maybe could be a little better than advertised. This year, I think a lot of folks, myself included, believe they're going to continue to get better and go from good to elite. But at the same time, if this unit were to regress, it's just going to muck up this offense. Y'all every day here at Locked On Aggies know how important I believe offensive line play is, and it's not like I'm this crazy. It is important. Everyone knows that. Offensive line play is incredibly important, and if you don't have great offensive line play, it's hard to get things going offensively. So this unit cannot regress. I don't foresee it happening. I don't think this unit is going to regress. It's just something that if you're a Texas A&M fan, you really don't want that to happen to this group. Because I'm just telling you, if this group is going to be able to take that step, this unit, that offensive line can take that step to that next level. They can go from good to elite. It's going to be scary how good this offense can be with Marcel Reed, who I believe, as we talked about a minute ago, is going to take that step to the next level. It is going to be incredibly terrifying for opposing teams if this offensive line is as good as advertised. So those are the three things that I think Texas A&M must do to overachieve and would have to do to underachieve this upcoming 2025 season. So leave in the YouTube comments, what do y'all think it would take for Texas A&M to overachieve or underachieve? Do you agree with any of the ones I had? Is there any you would add yourself? Let me know that in the YouTube comments. The Aggies got a big win over the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday, a game that at points was interesting, at points was close, but the Aggies find a way to win. They win both halves. We're going to break it down and talk about this massive win over a heating up team coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. The Texas A&M Aggies hosted John Calipari and his new team, the Arkansas Razorbacks, In a big-time matchup in Reed Arena, a game where Texas A&M found a way to win 69-61. It was a nice win. It was a good game. You get 18 points from Wade Taylor. You get 12 points from Zurich Phelps, who really got this team going with a personal 5-0 run. A couple good shots there when we were struggling offensively, and Arkansas had gone out and gotten hot early. Anderson Garcia gives you one of his best performances scoring the ball this year, where he goes for 11 points. I mean, is that one of his? That's got to be one of his best games in SEC play, right? So Anderson Garcia scored 12 points. Yeah, that was his first double-digit point game of SEC play. So it was good to see Anderson Garcia get going a little bit. Also, I think that CJ Wilcher has to be in the game more. He plays 7 minutes and gives you 6 points on 2 of 4 shooting from 3. Hefner has a game where he gives you a couple points in about 10 minutes, gives you a rebound. I thought he did some good stuff defensively, I noticed. Then you get 11 points. You don't get a ton of bench points in this game. You get 11, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 bench points. Not terrible. You get 6 points from Payne on 3 of 5 shooting. You get 6 points from Coleman, 2 points from Manny Obaseki. I mean, and it's just a game where you do what you want to do. You held Adu Thiero to 10 points, who's been great this year. What's he averaging, 17 a game or something like that? He's averaging 16 a game, and you held him to 10 points on 2 of 6 shooting. He's a very efficient player. Their freshman Carter Knox had a good game. That kid's special. He had 17 points. Zvonimir Visic, a guy that has been averaging like a ton of points over the last few games. He goes 3 of 5 from the field. I don't know why. I mean, Calipari, I know that Visic gets bullied a little bit at times on defense, he didn't get literally crammed on. That was hilarious. But he just gives you so much offensively. I mean, he gave you 13 points in 20 minutes, 6 rebounds. I think he blocked a few shots, 4 blocks. I mean, I just don't get why you don't have him on the court at all times. But hey, I'm not the coach of Arkansas. John Calipari is. So, once again, this is a win. This was the game, even at home. I didn't care if you won by 20 points or if you won by 1 point. This is a game where you're fighting in the SEC. You just had to find a way to win. This was a big time win for this basketball team against a team that's playing good ball right now. So a big one coming up on Tuesday against Mississippi State on the road. Mississippi State, it's a good basketball team who's in this SEC conference, and they're getting beat up. That's why they're 6-6. They're better than 6-6 in any other conference, but the SEC is just a gauntlet. So, we'll preview that game a little bit right now, because tomorrow's show, actually, I'm going to go on with Brian Smith, who now he's been on the Locked On Aggies with me a few times. He hosts the new show, The Portal. We're talking about the transfer portal. We'll talk about a few things. That'll be my show tomorrow. So we'll talk about Mississippi State right now. I mean, they're a team who has a player in Josh Hubbard who at absolutely any point can go berserk. I'm pretty sure he's been playing some good ball of late. I mean, his last 5 games, 38 points, 24, 16, 19, 14. I mean, he's playing good basketball of late. He is one of those guys who, if you're not careful, he will score 57 points. He can shoot from once he crosses that half-court line, he will shoot from anywhere, and he can score from anywhere. So you've got to know that you've got to defend him well. They play the game similar to you. They rebound well, about 39 rebounds per game. They pass it well, 16 assists per game. They don't shoot the 3 ball well. They're a similar basketball team to Texas A&M. You got to go to their gym. I mean, I think you just keep playing your style of basketball, and I think it's going to work out. So I think the Aggies are going to get this win, and I think this is the win. I mean, I'm bought into this team. I still think there's a lot of folks that aren't bought into Texas A&M. I think there's a lot of folks that say, they can't score. It's going to come crashing down. I'm bought in now. Those of you that listen to me talk about basketball, I wasn't for a while, and I'm now bought in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But this is a big game, and we previewed today a little bit. Not as much as I normally would, because we got a big show tomorrow. But we'll talk about what happens on Wednesday. But I think you can win this game, and I think it's a big one. So this basketball team's playing good ball right now. You're 20-5. You're en route to being a 2 seed. And it being a 2 seed, knowing what you're going through in this conference in the SEC, I'd be so proud with this team. And I think they could do something special in March if they continue to get a little bit better offensively on top of what they did defensively, the little things, rebounding and all that. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be on with Brian Smith. It'll be on my show and his show, The Portal. So going to be a fun one. Talk about some recruiting, talk about some transfer portal stuff. Going to talk a little bit about some NIL, different things there. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Hope y'all enjoy that one tomorrow. We'll see you then right here on Locked On Aggies.